their sacred cultures and customs, they have nurtured and cared for this land for thousands of years and continue to do so today. Last few months, we have witnessed unprecedented incidents of violence that disturbed our beloved Sydney and shocked our communities from east to west. We were afraid to wake up in the morning, open our phones, expecting to hear some horrible news about violence acts in our city. So we asked, why would young, mature adults get into these extreme acts of violence?
I would like to welcome the Mayor of Liverpool City, the Honorary Mr. Ned Mannoun, and I would like to spare a huge thank for him for his support and for his help with his team to have this seminar happening today. I would like to welcome also Mrs. Fiona Pratt, Deputy Mayor, and I would like to welcome all representatives of Iraqi Arabic organizations. I would like to welcome all our academic colleagues, and I would like to welcome all of you. Thanks for coming on a Saturday for a very dry and tense topic like violence. Few months ago, our area, our West, went through a tough time after the widely condemned stabbing of Bishop Marmar. The event and the features of the responses around it dominated the social media and a wide sector of the mainstream media for weeks and weeks. Around the same time, authorities in North Territories implemented a youth curfew in Alice Springs. Sydney was shocked by the Bondi Junction stabbing when a 40-year-old man stabbed and killed 6 people and injured further 12. The latest available figures from the Bureau of Statistics refer to 1 woman being killed by her husband or boyfriend every 4 days.
From being in Iraq with the cradle of civilization and the knowledge that you have done through thousands and thousands of years. And I think we should never, ever, ever forget that. Because when we think about Iraq, when we think about the Middle East in general, whether it's the Phoenicians, the Assyrians, Gilna, all of us, the contribution to the modern world is, I wouldn't say if it's anyone has matched it, but it is definitely up there to a point where people do not even recognize the contribution of what has actually happened. And I think that's why things like today, right here in Liverpool, where the world lives together in peace and harmony.
في غلط بالمفهوم انه والله الفقر بيؤدي لعنف غير صحيح. Again, let's see relatively what it means. So, economic inequalities, okay, في increasing evidence that are linked to social political unrest, which might lead to violence. So, in absolute terms, poverty does not mean immediately radicalization. However, economic inequalities help build up an environment that will lead young people to be frustrated, to feel excluded, to have strains on their upward mobility when they are excluded from proper job opportunities, from proper education. The alienation and frustration would lead them to have higher tendency to engage in violent extreme behavior.
لكن ما هي دلالات العنف الاجتماعي هنا من زاوية علم الاجتماع؟ الدلالات هو الإهمال. يعني جميعنا نعلم بأن الضرب أو القتل أو الاغتصاب هو يمثل فقط العنف. لكن الإهمال أي أن النظام الاجتماعي يهمل فئة معينة أقلية أو طائفة معينة، ولا يعير لها أهمية، ولا ينفذ طلباتها ويجعلها في أدنى السلم الاجتماعي، أي الإهمال هنا. ثم هناك محور آخر للعنف هو سلب الحقوق المدنية، أي أن النظام الاجتماعي يسلب حرية التفكير والتعبير والإفصاح، أو يجبر هؤلاء على أن يقولوا كلاما غير واقعيا وغير حقيقيا.
Such as verbal abuse. I mean, you know, when you verbally abuse your partner or your friend or the person on the street for his color, for his ethnicity, for his religion, verbal abuse. Bullying, that happens a lot in Australia, especially in schools and among peer groups. Intimidation and harassment. Okay, so that's what is meant by it. And okay, sexual violence. Sexual violence is any sexual act performed without the consent of the victim, often involving physical or psychological coercion, ikrah, qasr, that's the coercion, right? Example can be rape, and believe me, rape happens sometimes within the marriage institution. It doesn't have to be between two people who are not like married.
Let's go more deeper and give you some more examples, real examples of the cultural role in violence. The very common one is racism. Racism can play a role in many different forms. I will give you just some examples of it. One of them is the supremacy mindset, which is very common in our society. When I see myself better than you, I have a better culture, I have a better religion than you, my state is better than the state that you come from.
الموضوع يتطور وبدأت البحوث تنتبه إلى موضوع يدعى بالترانسجنريشنال تروما أو انتقال الصدمة عبر الأجيال. لأن الطفل يرى الحياة من منظور والديه بعدسة والديه، فنلاحظ أنه ممكن طفل يشوف أهله المرار أو قلة الحيلة أو النقمة في عيون أهله، وحتى لو مو هو اللي متعرض إلها قد يكبر الطفل ويعبر عن هذه الأيديولوجيات، يعبر عن هذه التراكمات في سلوكياته.
Monday service. The teenager was subsequently charged with a terrorism offence and remains in custody. Following the incident, hundreds of people rioted outside the church, with dozens of police officers injured and vehicles damaged. More arrests were made in what police have branded large-scale public order incident. The graphic video of the stabbing prompted Australia's E-Safety Commissioner, Julie Inman-Grant, to challenge Elon Musk's X-Corp in court after abandoning legal action over his refusal to take down footage of the stabbing.
Social media impact. مواقع التواصل الاجتماعي اللي هي الآن أصبحت منصات مجانية. It's a free space. كل واحد بيكتب في السوشيال ميديا، بيكتب بالبوليتكس، في الايكونومي، في الموراليتي، في anything you can imagine. This one, because of the social media, nobody could use this one. حتى our privacy, our life, the people interfering in the other people's privacy, and they start talking about them. Well, what's happening here? Social media sites, as I said, become free platforms and platform for expressing opinions and discussing issues very freely, far from the borders and lines drawn by society and traditional media in reality.
In general, violence is viewed as a method of conflict resolution, not saying anything about its morality or ethics or its appropriateness, of course, but it's the primitive way of conflict resolution. And in that context then, law is the alternative to violence in a structured society. So you can imagine two Neolithic men fighting over a dead rabbit that both of them claim that they hunted. And if you move towards an urbanized society, you'll have conflict between institutions or individuals. So one example is what the Liverpool mayor talked about earlier today. You could imagine that if we still resolve our conflicts and issues in a similar way, then we'd expect Mr. Manon and Chris Minns from New South Wales government going in a boxing court and resolving the conflict that way, but instead they're taking it to courts. So these are the two sides that would explain law and violence in society. On one hand, law needs violence to enforce its authority. On the other hand, law tries to replace violence as means of conflict resolution.
فبأستراليا العنف ضد المرأة والرجل هو جريمة. Full stop. يعني it's not negotiable. It's a crime. It's unacceptable and it's a crime. العنف الضحية بالعنف هي ما هي اللي it's not guilty. It's not the victim that is guilty. We should not blame the victim. هاي لازم يكون كلها ناخذها معانا. يعني ما حد يستحق انه ينقتل بأي سبب ما كان. You're not happy in the relationship, the door is open. Go make a new life. Don't stay there. So الدليل انه انت باقي بهاي الريليشن شيب، هذه الاسباب اللي انت تختارها. فالعنف هو السلوك اللي شخص يختاره عشان يسبب الخوف، عشان يسلب القدرة، عشان يسيطر على الشخص الآخر. So when we're speaking of relationship من نتكلم على الرابطة هي it's a healthy relationship equal. هي يعني الشخصين متساوين.
العنف الآخر أيضا اللي هو يأخذ بعد سياسي، البعد العنف الأيديولوجي الذي يطلق عليه أحيانا في الأدبيات السياسية بالعنف الثوري أو العنف الثوري مورس من قبل ثورات وعنف شديد راح ضحيته إن لم يكن آلاف الناس راح ملايين الناس. وهذا أخطر أنواع العنف، وكنت أتمنى من بعض المحاضرين التطرق إلى هذا. ثم العنف الآخر الأكثر اللائق الخطورة اللي هو العنف اللي يصير الفوضى والموبس عندما تحصل حالات مثل ما تسمى مثلا حالات الفروت، وهذه مورست في مجتمعات شرقية ومجتمعات أوروبية.
I don't deny the fact that there are gangs, of course, there is underworld criminal activities, but this is much more complicated than a way to understand this by reference to ghettos.
Just a question to the panel. As we may all know, we came from the Eastern background, especially from the Middle East, and I believe the violence, percentage of violence, it's more in the southwest than the other area. I might be wrong. And suggestion to you guys, I wish you have, because you have a connection with the Middle East, all countries, especially Dr. Ali, he's been advisor to the Prime Minister's Academy, and also is in the University of Sydney and Tehran, I believe, Dr. Ali. So I wish you guys had more lectures in the Middle East, about the violence, so we can reduce the percentage of violence.
There's a name mentioned about a saying for one of the politicians saying, some cultures are better. How to live with this attitude? I don't know, this question.
Thank you.
Just quickly, Dr.
It's very important question, and sometimes the criticism of supremacy and the criticism of racism led to another issue from the other side to suppress the freedom of expression and speech. we need to create some kind of balance between these two. I think we should be able to compare cultures, and we should be able to talk about cultures, to say that I think this aspect of my culture has more development than this aspect in another culture. We should be free to talk based on science, based on research, and in a respectful way. What led us to racism when we make some kind of totalitarian or comprehensive vision and belief, and we say that I'm, as a white or a black or whatever, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, I'm better than you in general, and I'm entitled to some right that you are not in. This is racism. But at the same time, I think we should have free speech, and we should be able to talk about different aspects and criticize each other respectfully, which is very constructive and very useful for a modern society.
Despite the criticism directed to Sigmund Freud's theory of psychoanalysis, did he provide a scientific explanation for the human predisposition to aggression and violence, and could it be used to reform? This is about Sigmund Freud. We have
Yeah, thank you.
We have a second.
We're good. Yeah. Sigmund Freud theory was psychoanalytical. It's not based on robust scientific evidence. However, there were a lot of evidences that came and followed about how the nervous system works, that some of them supports the theory of Sigmund Freud, others do not.
The criminal misuse or manipulation of laws, but the state authorities' ability to use violence and not be held accountable for these. So, as I said, the police powers, especially in cases where there are deaths in custody of people with disabilities or Aboriginal people.
The argument هي ما هي على إنه هل إحنا نقدر نعرفها بطريقة أخرى. الargument إنه هون في أستراليا الأسلوب السلبية هي تنحسب جريمة. فيمكن أني أشرت قبل وأشرت بس على مسألة الguilt أو الشيم. بس I can sit down here and speak forever with you على هاي التناقضات التجي اللي كيف إحنا ربينا، وأشرت قليل إنه شلون يعني التربية طريقة اللي أنت تربيت بيها أو المعتقدات أو الشيء اللي أنت ناظرته وشفته بعيونك أو الشيء اللي سمعته أو الشيء اللي مثلوه قدامك it was modeled in front of you تشكل هويتك.
There is some policy being put now for bullying in schools and variety of institutions. It's not really taken seriously in many places, you know. Still, people maybe get out of it very quickly. It's not really, example, principal in schools, some principal in schools and some teachers, they've been really harassed from families, from friends, because they are trying to follow the rules, you know.
إنه العنف له جذور اقتصادية، اجتماعية، ثقافية، ولا يمت الصلة بصلة بأي من الهويات الأخرى، سواء هويات دينية أو طائفية أو عرقية أو هوية الجندر، أن الرجل عنيف أو المرأة عنيفة. احنا نريد نثبت هنا من خلال العلم، من خلال الحقائق العلمية والنظريات العلمية، أنه لا دين للعنف، لا عرق للعنف، ولا جندر للعنف. يعني هذا الموضوع موضوع حيوي.